Good morning and welcome to the AMEDD Effect Podcast, where we discuss the causes and effects of Army medicine opportunities. As always, before we jump into episode 7, I need for everyone to do me a favor. First, like the podcast so you can stay up to date on the latest episodes. Leave a comment and let us know how we're doing. Let us know if you have a question and if there is something that we can answer for you. And last but not least, share the show with someone you know or someone who may find the information that we are providing useful.
Are you looking to pursue a successful healthcare career at one of the largest and most advanced medical facilities in the country? If so, look no further. The U.S. Army is here. Visit goarmy.com/AMEDD to learn how you can serve soldiers, their families, military retirees, and at times the general public while providing meaningful service.
Today on the AMEDD Effect Podcast, we have MAJ Brandon Jones on set, and I want to talk to him about his journey in the U.S. Army Dental Corps, being a recipient of the Health Profession Scholarship Program, to his duties as the U.S. Army Dental Corps Recruiting Intergration Officer, and a whole bunch more. Good morning, MAJ Jones. How has life been treating you lately?
Well, good morning, Will. Thank you first off for the opportunity, and thank you also for the opportunity to share my Army story and for me to speak the good word of Army dentistry. But as far as the day and how life is treating me, I couldn't be more blessed. So thank you.
No problem at all. Everybody, before we get started, let's go ahead and give MAJ Jones a round of applause for taking the time out of his day and coming to sit down and talk to us here at the AMEDD Effect. Now, MAJ Jones, when I first came on board, Michelle, she called me over here and she asked for me to come and film some things that was going on downstairs at the Brigade. During that time, you were called up to the front and you were recognized by Major General Johnny Davis for holding the longest plank. Can you tell us how that came about?
Well, to be honest with you, it's kind of hard to say how it came about. It was just one of those things where we had to show up for PT one day, where we were also sharing that time with General Davis and his team. And so at the conclusion of our PT session, and to my surprise, I guess he wanted a plank off. And I'll be honest, at the beginning of it, I was really kind of feeling tired that day. And, I didn't really know how well I was going to do. And I honestly don't plank that often, really, any more than I have to, which is for the PT test. But nonetheless, there was a plank off. And so they said, on your marks, get ready, go. And we started going. And I just felt at the time my competitive spirit's kicking in, but at the same time, my respectful spirit, because as people started to fall off more and more, I started to realize it was myself and General Davis left behind. Right. And if I'm speaking honestly and freely, I really didn't know what the expectation was, because here I have a 2-star general holding on a plank. And some part of me thought, well, am I supposed to just kind of let him win? Because I don't know. Maybe I need to shine. But then my competitive speaker is like, no, you're not supposed to do that. Somebody's going to come into RAO and show us off. So if you can do it, do it. And so nonetheless, I guess it was a little bit of both of those mentalities that kept me going as long as I could. But that's what got me to it and also through it.
Now, exercising is important for soldiers and then just for everyday people in general. Now, you spoke about having to do PT, showing up for PT. How often are you in the gym, and how important is it for soldiers to maintain a healthy lifestyle?
Awesome. Great question. So physical fitness is a big part of my life. It is a hobby of mine. Honestly, so much so that it was 2022 April timeframe that I actually participated in my first bodybuilding competition.
Okay.
In men's physique category. Never thought that would be me, because I'm not really that type of person to kind of really showcase myself in that. But my good friend, buddy, and person I even call my brother, I met in the gym, and he is the one that kind of inspired me to do it. Okay. Because I was already in there doing the work, which, for me, being in the gym, especially at that time, was a 5 to 6 day a week kind of ordeal. And so I was already putting in the work. And so me participating in that type of competition really just helped me to set the bar higher and to allow myself the kind of the motivation to get to that next level. And it certainly did allow me to do that, and I was able to achieve that, which was great. But as far as the importance level for what I think and believe physical fitness is for our soldiers, well, first and foremost, you kind of really have no choice being in the military, right?
Right.
I mean, you like it or not, being active duty, you're going to take a PT test minimum of twice a year, right?
Uh-huh.
So again, you have to meet the minimum standard. But I also think more importantly than just a requirement for your job, I think it's a requirement for a life and a good life, right? Because I can tell you that, personally, and then also being in healthcare myself, that those that have that sort of mentality and discipline to, achieve that and do that, certainly reap the benefits. And it's not about, what you look like as a result, because to me, that is that is like the icing on the cake. But the real reason to stay focused and dialed into, health and wellness and working out is to be healthy and
Right.
well.
Right.
And as a result of that, you also look good as, doing it. So that to me is what it means. And then it also helps to instill a lot of just discipline and camaraderie within units. I think that, we can get out there together as a unit and do some good PT. And our great XO, he is, I don't know, there's a better proponent than Lieutenant Colonel Owens, and his effort to kind of drive home everything that I've just mentioned.
That's good right there. I know bodybuilding and being a part of those competitions are very, very hard to do. Hard to do it sometimes because it's the diet that comes into play, eating certain type of things, and then training, and training your body to get ready for those competitions. So, congratulations for even stepping into that realm and even taking on something like that. I do a couple of things. I do like to work out. I do a couple of things as well to try to maintain a healthy lifestyle. And I just always try to go by that, the whole health is wealth and movement is medicine kind of like mentality. So I like to get out there and just move around. So that definitely is something that I like to do. Now, you are currently the Dental Corps Recruiting Integration Officer for the Medical and Chaplain Recruiting Brigade. What does your current role and responsibilities as the dental recruiting officer? What are those roles and responsibilities?
So traditionally, this role has been kind of coined the term or the idea that you are the face of the Army Dental Corps. Mm-hmm. And I kind of knew that going in, and it's kind of it makes you feel good, but it's also, it's a kind of heavy weight because, like, wow, mm-hmm. I guess I am the quote-unquote face of the Army Dental Corps. And in a nutshell, that's kind of what it is, because I have the opportunity to engage with any and everyone who has an interest in the Army Dental Corps. And then also for those who may not, or even they just may not know about what Army dentistry is all about, I have the ability to enlighten them on a daily basis. And so what the best way to view what it is that I do, you just kind of break it down on different levels. From a more tactical level, as far as what a recruiting integration officer is, I am the subject matter expert for all things dental related, and the brigade commander's special consultant for dentistry. And so what all that means is I get to have the special privilege of engaging with applicants on a daily basis, anyone who is interested in Army dentistry, sharing my story, mm-hmm. And giving them insight about what this opportunity has done for me and what it can do for them. That's what I do on that very kind of tactical level, which also involves me traveling a lot, going to national conventions, anything from the American Dental Association to specialties type of conventions like the American Association of Oral Maxillofacial Surgery or American College of Prosthodontics, whatever the case may be, whatever we are on call for, so to speak, is from a national conventions perspective, and specifically for dental, I get to have the opportunity to attend. Also, I get to travel a lot to dental schools and speak directly to students, oftentimes in lunch and learn type of environments. And again, this all kind of collectively is kind of that tactical sort of perspective of what I do. But from a more strategic standpoint, as far as, what I can do to influence Army dentistry and kind of, not only just maintain but improve upon the mission. I get to really have, direct insight and influence to the brigade commander and even echelons well above, having the opportunity to speak to the deputy surgeon general and the surgeon general in reference to what can we do to improve upon our mission. And that to me is really awesome because, again, that helps to kind of maintain the legacy of who we are and then also be able to, again, sustain and also improve the mission long term. So, right now, we have the onboarding of two different specialties that were never part of this brigade's mission. That, unfortunately, I will not really have the, because my tenure is coming to an end here, but I won't really have the ability to tap into before I leave. But the next Dental Corps Recruiting Intergration Officer will have the awesome privilege of being able to bring insight of what these two new specialties, orthodontics and endodontics, how do we get after it? What can we do to get into those markets and influence those types of specialists to come and join our team? And so, again, that really is that more strategic kind of mindset. And then, of course, when they get into the more tactical component, when they get to actually engage with those individuals and speak with them, that, again, is all collectively what the Dental Corps Recruiting Integration Officer does. So the last thing I'll mention, too, is also training, right? So I have a tremendous amount of respect for recruiters, especially recruiters involved with the Medical Recruiting Brigade. I know what I know as a dentist because I am a dentist, because I went through all the steps to get to where I am today.
Right.
But I couldn't imagine anybody who has not done what I've done to try to learn what it is that I did to get to where I am and then try to influence and speak to someone else about why they should consider. I think that's a very challenging job, and there is so many different demographics of specialties, not just within dentistry, but then within medicine and the entire AMEDD that recruiters are charged to learn about and get after. And so one of the responsibilities that the Recruiting Integration Officer has is that we are there to help to train them, give them insight into what it is that it takes to get to where we are today. What are some tips and tricks, so to speak, to be able to, talk to these individuals effectively and professionally to, again, provide them insight that they need to have to be inspired to, again, follow a similar path. So I think that is a very, very challenging job to have. Right. And I'm just very blessed to be able to have the, ability and also responsibility to, help provide them with the tools necessary to make that a success. So that's, again, what we do in a nutshell.
Now, speaking, you said something earlier. You said you are pretty much the face of the Dental Corps, and that's pretty much kind of like what your position as the Dental Integration Officer is. Now, as for me, being a person who works in social media, when I came on board, I was looking for some things to promote about Army dentistry, and I came across a video of you speaking, and you were speaking about being a dentist, receiving the opportunities of being able to receive the Health Profession Scholarship Program, which we will get into here in a little bit. So, yeah, I will say you are right. So you are pretty much the face, because that you were the first person who I came across with the most updated content that we can utilize for social media. So, it's definitely the face of the program. Now, you are from Oak Park, Illinois. Talk about growing up in that area and what life was like for a younger Brandon Jones back then.
Oh, great question. Well, first off, I absolutely love where I grew up. Oak Park is a suburb of Chicago, and if you know anything about Chicago, and you know about Michigan Avenue, the famous street in downtown Chicago, if you're driving straight west, it's the first western suburb that you'll run into, when you're driving in that direction. And it was just an amazing community to grow up in. It's kind of a urban suburb, as I would call it. And so it is very, it's very nice, fairly affluent community, but it was one that was very diverse culturally, and I credit a lot of that, upbringing to that community as a whole to help develop me to who I am today. A lot of the friends that I have still to this day, who were texting me all this morning, that core group of individuals, I met all of there. And I would argue that they would say the same about Oak Park and what the community meant to them and how it helped kind of develop us into who we are today. Not to mention educationally, it was a great school system there. No need to go to any private schools because just the public schools in that community were just amazing. I met, again, lifelong friends that I still know and communicate with today. And so it was really awesome. It was also great locationally because, again, I mentioned it's the first western suburb out of Chicago. So honestly, if I step across the street from my old house, I'm technically in Chicago, but I'm also only 10 minutes away from downtown Chicago. So it was a great place to be able to, go out and experience the city, but then come back home to that suburban lifestyle and enjoy some of those great things that I just mentioned about the community. So I loved it. And the last thing I'll mention, too, is that if anybody is into architecture or knows anything about it, Frank Lloyd Wright is a famous architect, and so he has a lot of his works that are there in the Oak Park area. And so we have a lot of visitors and tourists that come to view a lot of his historic homes that he actually one that he lived in and then many that he designed. So, again, great community. I recommend it to anyone.
So would you say you were a Chicago Bulls fan and you attended a lot of Taste of Chicago?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
So, I grew up in the Jordan era, so, Jordan over LeBron all day. No disrespect to him. I think he's a phenomenal player, and, he is certainly – second in line, but I emphasize second. I got to give the GOAT to Jordan.
Yes.
Not that you asked, but I'm just going to say it. And then as far as the Taste Chicago, yes. When I growing up, we went almost every year.
Okay.
It's great. And that taps into, honestly, I think one of the best aspects of Chicago, which is the food. Mm-hmm. I don't know what you like to eat, but I guarantee whatever it is, I can guarantee that we have some of the best there in Chicago.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just amazing. I mean, I love the food. That's one of the best reasons to ever come and visit if you've never been there before. So
now, after high school, you decided you wanted to further your education. So you decided to attend University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign.
Yes.
While you were there, what did you get your degree in?
Okay. Yeah. So. Funny enough, my degree was in sociology, and so that may be contrary to a lot of pre-dental students, pre-medical students, just pre-medical specialty students in general, because, again, a lot of them tend to fall in line with one of the traditional sciences, whether it be biology, chemistry, physics. But one of the unique aspects of pursuing medicine and dentistry, veterinarian, whatever the case may be, is there's no specific degree in that. You just need to take the prerequisites that are required for dental school in order to be eligible to apply.
Gotcha.
So with that said, I took advantage of the fact that, of course, I had to take all the prerequisites, all the sciences that I needed to and maths that I needed to get into dental school, but at the same time, I could diversify my knowledge base and experience by also taking part in something that was also interesting to me, which was sociology. So I kind of brought in that kind of diverse concept with me choosing sociology, but it was also, I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of a crapshoot because if I didn't get into dental school, I'm not certain exactly what I would be doing with that degree.
Right.
I had no desire to pursue anything in relation to it. I just thought the classes that I was taking were fairly interesting, but my goal was always to pursue something in the medical field, but obviously as I grew further, specifically dental.
Okay, because that's what I was gonna ask. Did you always know that you wanted to be a dentist later on in life, or did you go to college and then something changed after you had got to college? But it seems like being in the medical field, was something that you were going to do, but then you also went into that dental route. So,
A great question. So, actually, full transparency, for the most of my life, I wanted to be a vet or something to do with animals. Actually, if thinking correctly here, growing up, I actually wanted to be a zoologist. Basically, just kind of study of animals. But then, that grew into me wanting to be a vet, and that was the case almost all the way up until I started undergrad. Mm-hmm. And I had the opportunity when I was in undergrad to take a discovery course at the vet school because University of Illinois had a vet school there. And so I took a discovery course there. And there I discovered, oh, no, I do not think I want to be a vet because I came to the conclusion that if I were to do so, I'd either be depressed or I'd have a zoo at my house or a combination thereof. And so I was like, no, I don't think that. I love animals, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for people who do that because I think it's very hard. Mm-hmm. It's hard enough to do medicine when my patients can speak to me and tell me where it hurts and give me a background. But to do that with someone who can't speak with is to me challenging, and I have the utmost respect. But I knew at that point it wasn't for me. So then I thought, well, you know what? I still have this passion for just medicine, just being in that sort of environment, having that kind of interaction with people and effect and impact. But I didn't know which avenue exactly. I never really had a desire to pursue medicine or become a physician, mm-hmm. but I thought everything from from a physical therapist to becoming a dentist. And so my first year of my undergraduate experience, I had an opportunity to work for my dentist, my family dentist that I've been going to my entire life.
Okay.
And actually the dentist that my father had been going to the vast majority of his life. And so when he heard that I might have an interest in dentistry, he said, why don't you come work for me for the summer? I'll get my assistants to kind of train you up and give you some experience and see if you like it. I said, okay. And honestly, from that experience and that time, I never looked back because I fell in love with the fact that dentistry was as much an art as it is a science. I love kind of working with my hands, and I love, again, that it kind of has both those aspects tied into it. And I also enjoyed the quality of life because, again, I mentioned I didn't want to go into medicine or become a physician, but dentistry really gives you that autonomy and gives you that ability to potentially, if you wanted to, go into private practice and own your own practice and have that autonomy. I think that is another unique factor which I fell in love with, and that's ever since then I never looked back.
So that's good, being able to get that hands-on experience during the summer with your family physician. I mean, with your family dentist. So, excuse me. So that is definitely great. Now, after you received your bachelor's in sociology, you joined the individual ready reserves, where trained soldiers may be called upon if needed to replace other soldiers who are in active duty or reserve units. Talk about the individual ready reserves and how you found the program to be beneficial for you and your journey in the U.S. Army.
Well, so I only became part of the individual ready reserve because I was, more importantly, accepted for the health professional scholarship program, which is, a tremendous blessing in my life because it helped pay for the ridiculously overpriced, expensive dental school that I attended, and it paid for it in full while giving me a stipend every month, and it gave me a $20,000 sign-on bonus. But how did I come to fruition, so to speak, to even get there? Where did my interest come from? I get that question a lot, and my response is always this. I didn't have a mother, father, aunt, uncle, brother, cousin, or best friend that was part of the military or in the military at the time or had been in the past. to quote unquote inspire me, and I didn't have a person like myself, like a dental recruiting integration officer, to speak to understand what I would potentially be getting into, if I were to consider that. So when people ask me how did I ever become interested, I don't know, but the running joke in my head is maybe I watched a few too many movies growing up. But I honestly don't know where this idea of me joining the military came from, other than to say that. But I always had it, and so much so that when I was in high school, I actually thought about applying for the military academy.
Okay.
And thought about it, and after investigating and realizing what I would be doing, I kind of thought to myself, you know what, I want the college experience.
Yeah.
So I kind of veered away from it and pursued my education there at University of Illinois. But while I was there, that itch was still there. I still thought, I think being in the military would be great. So I considered reaching out to the Professor of Military Science and considered the Reserve Officer Training Corps, or ROTC as many may know it.
Okay.
And again, upon further investigation, I thought, no, I don't know that that's it either. But again, as they say, third time's a charm. Got into dental school at Marquette University, found out about the Health Professional Scholarship Program, and I was like, ding, ding, that's my ticket. So while I was there, I was in the individual ready reserves, but as far as what that meant, I couldn't tell you, because at the end of the day, I didn't do anything regarding the military while I was in dental school. The only responsibility I had was to get through school, and the only thing I knew about the Army at the time was that they were sending me a check every month. That's about it. So that's my experience in the individual ready reserve, and there's not much else I could say about it other than the military while I was in school until I actually graduated and came on active duty.
Now, for those who are listening, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to get back to talking to Major Jones about the HPSP scholarship program and how it was beneficial for him. But we're going to take a real quick commercial break.
Launch your medical career with zero to little debt with the Army's Health Professions Scholarship Program. HPSP is one of the most comprehensive scholarships available in the healthcare field. The Health Professions Scholarship could be great for those pursuing a career in one of these fields: medical, including osteopathy, dental, veterinary, nursing, counseling and clinical psychology, and optometry. For more information, visit goarmy.com/HPSP.
You guys, if you are interested in learning more about the Health Profession Scholarship Program, make sure you follow that website, and we'll provide it again for you. That is goarmy.com/HPSP to learn more about the Health Profession Scholarship Program. Now, back to more with Major Brandon Jones. Now, Major Jones, you just spoke about you took it while in school. You were able to take advantage of the Health Profession Scholarship Program. The Health Profession Scholarship Program is something that is in place for medical and dental students, where they offer them a full-time scholarship. That includes full tuition at the medical school of their choice, a monthly stipend, along with a bonus to HPSP recipients. How did this sound when you first learned about the program, and did you automatically want to take advantage of the opportunity?
Well, let's just start with amazing. I mean, and unparalleled, because again, to my knowledge, then and even now, there's nothing that can parallel that as far as scholarships. First of all, it's hard to get scholarships in medical and dental school. I mean, there are scholarships that they're available, but none of them are nearly as robust, and none of them that I know of offer any sort of stipend. Even if they were to pay for your tuition, to get a stipend on top of that paid every month, and then on top of that, a bonus, there's nothing like it. And so it was definitely music to my ears, and it is music to many ears even to this day.
Right.
But as far as what I knew about things, back then, other than that, I didn't know anything other than that, because the other thing that made me say yes, please, was the fact that I already had an interest in the military, and this helped scratch that itch on top of the fact that I was going to be able to be a dentist, a captain, on that. And an officer, I was like, check, and check. But I don't know if you're going to ask this anytime soon, but I mean, the real reason to actually why I, would recommend this opportunity to anyone, I didn't know at the time when I applied. I didn't know at the time when I was in dental school, but it wasn't until I actually came on active duty that I realized God is good and this is exactly where I needed to be. But again, I'll get into that if you want me to now, or I don't know if you have a question about it, but that to me is all I knew at the time when I was applying for the program.
So, okay, yeah, because, well, you kind of answered it earlier because I was going to ask you if you had any family members or any close friends who were affiliated with the Army or who knew some about the inner workings of the Army, but you said that you had nobody to explain or tell you anything about this, which leads me back to asking you this question. You spoke earlier about how you will have the opportunity now to go out and speak to students and go to these different conferences and speak and represent the Army and the Dental Corps. When you were in school, was there a recruiter that came to the school to talk to you all about the HPSP program? Or how did it come across your plate?
Great question. So to answer, was there a recruiter or someone? No, there wasn't. Mm-hmm. When I was there at University of Illinois, there wasn't. And, I actually been trying to ponder that a lot myself. I couldn't tell you exactly and pinpoint how I found out about it. I couldn't, so long ago, I couldn't exactly pinpoint how I found out about it. I just know that when I found out about it, I just went to a local recruiting station near my hometown, which wasn't even a medical recruiting station at the time. It was, MPS recruiting station, as you would call it, for kind of the enlisted side of the house. But they then deferred me to a medical recruiting station, and one of the officers in particular, and he was game-changing as far as, just his candor and his approach and his knowledge base. And I'll be even further honest. When I thought about this, I originally thought that, the Air Force would probably be, the best choice for me. And this is because I had no knowledge, and other than what I think most people have, is that kind of being the white collar of the military, and the best place to be if you're going to join the military. And at the time, when I sought out the Air Force, they didn't have any scholarships available at the time. Okay. And then I kind of secondarily thought about the Navy, and the Navy said, well, you know what, we couldn't really get you an answer until like October of that year, which is when I had already started dental school. And I was like, well, that's not going to work. And then I spoke with an Army recruiter, and he was like, you work with me, I think I can get you an answer in 30 days. I was like, really? And he was very true and honest with that. In 30 days, he got me the answer, and he worked with me. And his just customer service and approach to me as an applicant at the time, I couldn't ask for a better experience. And again, I didn't know anything more than I just told you that, the Air Force was kind of the best place to be if you could get there. And the Army was kind of the third tier. If you get it, well, great, but, you probably should pursue the Air Force at first. Well, again, I can tell you that's a lot of people's thought process, I think. But having now gone through it and being a part of the Army Dental Corps, I don't think there's any better place to be. And I'm so thankful for me choosing the Army Dental Corps as opposed to the other two options. And again, I can get into that, if you have other questions about it throughout this interview. But that to me, again, I never look back on my decision to join the Army, and I know that I'm the dentist I am today in every positive way because of that choice.
Yeah, because I was going to ask a question, so you can get into it, because I was going to ask you, were there any pivotal moments that made you decide to pursue a career in the U.S. Army?
No, I couldn't tell you again the pivotal moments. Just again that kind of duty to serve, the coolness factor, as I thought it was at the time, to wear the uniform and be a part of a greater team. I loved it, and I loved the idea of being something bigger than myself. And again, these are just kind of generalized ideas that I had about the military. But again, I had no real specific ones because being a dentist in the Army, I honestly just didn't know anything about until I actually became one on active duty.
Right.
And so, again, I'd love to dive deeper into that, but I'll let you, get to that portion whenever you decide to do.
Okay. Now, I was going to ask you, I asked you this question because I was wondering if somebody had came out to speak at the college or university while you were there to spread the word about HPSP, because my next question after that was going to be, how does it feel for you to go back to a college or a university to speak to these medical students who were once in those same shoes? They're looking to figure out how can they pay for dental school, how can they, where will they work after they complete school, and how will they be able to pay this debt back?
Well, once again, I'll start off with amazing. It feels great and it's absolutely rewarding. And I honestly do so with a great deal of confidence because of what I know the Army Dental Corps can do for them as it relates to what it's done for me, right? Because as I mentioned earlier, I am the dentist who I am today in every positive way because of that choice that I made. And it had nothing to do with the amount of money that they were going to pay for me to get through dental school, right? That's great and that's amazing, but here's the real and true, honest, raw fact. As a dentist, you're going to make a very good living typically, once you graduate. And so no matter how much debt you have, in general, you're going to have the ability to pay it back. It may take some time, but you'll have the income to be able to pay back that debt load, whatever it may be. So if that is the main focus reason why you want to join the Corps, I mean, there's no wrong about that, but I would say that I would direct them to think about this. And I say this to every person I have the opportunity to speak to. I mean no disrespect when I say it, but it's the true feeling that I have, and I think many other dentists can relate. It doesn't matter to me what school you go to, what your GPA will be, what your class rank will be, and even what your experience and knowledge that you'll gain while you're in school. Every person that graduates dental school, medical school, vet school, nurse school, any professional school, you are a safe beginner at best, right? And that's just because dental school cannot prepare you well enough with all of the knowledge and all the experience that will be necessary for you to treat your patients at the highest degree, at the highest level, and reach the full pinnacle of our profession. And so a lot of that comes after school, right? They will give you and provide you the foundational tools that are necessary for you to reach that. But to get all that necessary experience and secondary knowledge really happens afterwards.
Okay.
So the onus is on you in trying to figure out how you're going to get it. And there's multiple different ways to get it. But the real reason that I speak about on the daily why anyone should join our team is the ability to reach that pinnacle, the ability to gain that extra experience and that extra knowledge that I'm referring to is something that you can get in the Army Dental Corps at the best price of free $99. Yes, I said it, free $99. I think Kanye is the first person I heard say something like that, but nonetheless, it is the best price. And I say that because it's better than free, because you're actually getting paid your full salary as a dentist to go off and decide, hey, maybe you want to go be an oral surgeon. Maybe you want to be a prosthodontist, endodontist, orthodontist, pediatric dentist, or even just a really, really good, sound general dentist like myself, or a comprehensive dentist, or anything in between. You have the ability to do that, right? And so at that best price. And so for me to be in that situation where you're most malleable, graduating out of dental school, and realizing that, okay, now you've got this big task to kind of figure out how am I going to reach that pinnacle. Now you're a part of an organization bigger than yourself that's all about promoting you to that next level, not just in uniform, but just as importantly as a provider to treat our soldiers. They are all about it. That is one of, the prime motivators that I think our Corps has is to instill in our young providers the knowledge necessary for them to reach that pinnacle. And so that, to me, my friends, is literally the best reason, I think, to join the team. And I can tell you, as great as Marquette is, it really is a phenomenal school. If I had to do it all over again, I'd absolutely go back there in a heartbeat. If I look at myself when I graduated dental school, and then I look at myself when I graduated subsequently after residency, it's about as different as night and day. Mm-hmm. And again, that's not a disrespect on my education. It's just a realization of how much more I still needed to learn and how much I did not know. Right. And so that experience was magnified tenfold by my ability to attend residency and then, pursue my board certification. So again, that has always been, for me, the number one reason to join our team.
Now, a couple more questions about HPSP before we move along. When you found out that you were going to be a recipient of the scholarship, what was that phone call like back to your parents? And then the next question, the second portion of the question is, in return of being a recipient of the HPSP scholarship, and they're paying for your school debt, what does a recipient owe to the Army?
So great question. So first off, I mentioned again how I was, always had this itch to be a part of the Army and part of the military and all of that. But with even all that said, and with all that interest, still when I got that phone call, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of scared. I was kind of scared because then reality kicked in of what am I about to do? And again, I mentioned I didn't really have much insight into, what this experience truly was going to be about. Again, I watched a whole lot of movies growing up, and I had some interest, and I thought I'd be good at it and be cool, but that's about all I knew. So when I finally got the phone call that this now would be a reality, it was a little scary. And honestly, I was a little bit apprehensive at first. And I remember the recruiter even feeling it a little bit. It's like, since you're being a little, apprehensive or, what about it? And so it actually kind of took me a day or two to kind of circumvent that and, really try to set up a time to become commissioned. But it was a little scary only because of that. But then at that time, I relied on, my faith and when I realized that, all the great things I know the military had to offer from what I knew at that point. Also, I remember just the encouragement of my father. My father, had always been a great cheerleader of mine, and he was always so proud of me in so many ways. And he was thankful to hear of that opportunity. First of all, me to get into dental school, and then second of all, for me to have that opportunity paid for, and then join the Army on top of that. He was just all about it. So that's what that was my experience, I should say, when I first got that phone call. Mm-hmm. Now, the second question. The second
question was, once you are a person is a recipient of the scholarship, what do they owe in return for the Army paying off for their school, paying their school debt off?
Sure. So I mentioned that it's an unparalleled scholarship in the sense that obviously what we pay for. But it's not only that, but it's also, I think, because of what they request from you in return. And that is for every year, essentially, that they pay for, you owe a year in the service. And we have a 4-year scholarship. We have a 3-year scholarship. So if we take the 4-year scholarship, it's 4 years served. If you have a 3-year scholarship, it's 3 years served. Now, we also have a 2-year scholarship available. Here's the only difference in what I just said. Just by regulation, when you come on active duty as an officer, there is a requirement to serve a minimum of 3 years. So if you get the 2-year scholarship, unfortunately, it doesn't have the same bang for buck because they're going to pay for 2 years, but you're still going to owe 3. So that's an encouragement to all those listeners out there to really seek out the best bang for your buck, which is the 4-year. But next in line would be the 3-year. And that's not to say that a 2-year option would not be bad, because it's certainly good. And again, it's not about the money. It's really about the experience that you will have afterwards. So if you want to have that great experience, if you want to grow and develop as a dentist, if you want to reach that pinnacle, that to me is the reason. And at least on top of that, you get half your school paid for on top of that.
Now, speaking of experiences, life is full of experiences in the personal and in the professional world. Share some memorable experiences from your journey, and how did the Army support you through it?
Are you referring to
your journey through your journey through dental school, just through the whole dental corps, and how they supported you through that?
So when I think about some of the most supporting moments, first and foremost, I go back to another great reason to join a team is just the mentorship and the camaraderie and the support that I had on day one. I met one of, my best mentors in the Army and also a great friend, now Lieutenant Colonel DeMarcio Reed, at my first duty station there at Fort Bliss. He was a comprehensive dentist at the time. I was a general dentist, newbie guy, just come out of school. And darn near as close to day one as I can remember, he saw me, sought out for me, identified me, and, came over, introduced himself. And I was able to see, what he does as a comprehensive dentist. And the way that he was able to treat patients, the way that the knowledge base that he had, and also just his willingness to help me. Because, again, coming out of dental school, there's still so many times that you're like deer in headlights, like, what do I do? Because I'm used to being able to turn to my right or left and ask my, faculty member, hey, what do I do? But when you're all of a sudden in charge, you're that dentist and you're supposed to know, it's hard. And so having that support there was awesome. And so he was a great inspiration to me, a great help to me, and he was actually the reason why I pursued comprehensive dentistry as my specialty. But second to that, and to him, was just my experience in residency. I'm going to tell you, they pushed me, and they pushed me hard.
Okay.
It was a lot of work. But the experience that I have, and the ability for them to push me to the limits that they did was the prime reason, I believe, of who I am. A lot of it has a lot to do with who I am today. Again, as I mentioned earlier, when I was in dental school, even when I graduated dental school, it wasn't even until I began residency that I knew what board certification was. And in dentistry, board certification is kind of a foreign term, simply because unlike our physician colleagues, where board certification is almost a necessary achievement for them to get certain employment opportunities in the civilian sector, in dentistry, that's just not a very common achievement, and especially from our general dentist population. And so I say all that to say this. Our residency program, just like any residency that anyone may choose to be a part of in the Army Dental Corps, really grooms you to reach that achievement, to reach board certification. Right. And in order to do that, you have to have a certain level of knowledge and experience to be successful.
Gotcha.
And so when I was in dental school, speaking transparently, I was a middle of the line guy at best. That doesn't mean I had every desire to be the best dentist that I can be, but just where I stood in relation to all my classmates, I was probably middle of the road, as far as my academic achievement. And so I never thought, even if I knew what it was back then, that I'd ever be a board certified provider. But let me tell you, when I was in residency, they push you so hard, and they want the best out of you at every moment, that not only did I pursue board certification, but I was able to achieve it on my first time go.
Okay.
And do it so well that, again, this isn't a boast of myself, but this is a boast of the mentors that groomed me. I was identified by the American Board of General Dentistry as, a rising star, and was asked to come back for 2 years in a row as a deputy examiner. So I was able to inflict the pain that I was just receiving to individuals who were pursuing their board certification through their through the oral exam component. And so, again, that's not a reflection of me as much as I believe it's a reflection of the program that trained me and took me from where I was to who I am and where I am today. And that is just a true, honest belief of the dental corps as a whole, and especially our graduate dental education system, which I think is, again, unparalleled, because we have that, all of our program directors are board certified. And as I mentioned, that is a very, very seldom achievement in the dental world. And to give you a number attached to it, I believe from a general dentistry perspective, there's only about 2% of us that are actually board certified. And so, again, I'm very happy and proud to say I'm part of that 2%, but I'm even more proud to say that aware and how I became part of that, which is through the training I had through the corps.
Let's give a round of applause to all of Major Jones's mentors, and also to him being a part of that 2% of individuals who are board certified. You've been speaking about going to residency school or residency training. And the Dental Corps offers residency training locations at a few different locations throughout the United States. You actually had the opportunity to attend the Advanced Education General Dentistry program at Fort Hood, well, now Fort Cavazos. Once you completed the residency program in 2016, you were assigned to Fort Sill DENTAC as a 63B comprehensive dentist. Describe what that job entailed and how you excelled in that position.
Awesome. Well, great question. And that was probably from a provider standpoint, clinician standpoint, actually probably the best time in my career thus far. Because I had just graduated from residency. And again, I had already just kind of spoken about how awesome and amazing that was and how it prepared me as a clinician. But I was ready then to execute from that point, all of the great things that I had learned. And so one of, being a comprehensive dentist, the best way to describe who I am is I'm a jack of all trades, but master of none, or maybe master of some, but generally speaking, I kind of do it all to a degree. But if I had to describe what I like doing best based off what I do, I really enjoy surgery and extractions and things of that nature, and particularly. And so my first assignment there out of residency at Fort Sill, I was assigned to what we call a first-term dental readiness clinic or a fitter clinic. And essentially that means that our sole mission and population of soldiers are those who are in basic training or AIT, Advanced Individual Training. And so as you can imagine, with a lot of those types of soldiers, many of them are coming in and have had very little experience and no experience with a dentist, and a lot of them also still have, being young men and women, still have their wisdom teeth and things like that in place. So you can imagine the amount of surgery that I got to do as a result of that. So it was a lot of fun for me, and it was also an opportunity where I got to train a lot of new dentists, because at the same installation where I ultimately later on in my tenure there at Fort Sill will become the officer in charge, has a residency program, a 1-year advanced education in general dentistry residency. And so I would have those residents come over, or their director would have come over to my clinic, and they would get to rotate with me, and I got to work with them on a few cases when it came to, taking out teeth and doing extractions. And so I absolutely love it. And that is one of my secondary passions is teaching. And so again, to be able to do the dentistry I love, and then on top of that, be able to teach, it was just a great combo for me, and especially right out of school or residency.
Okay. Cool. Not bad at all. Well, you guys, we're going to take another quick commercial break and then more back with Major Brandon Jones.
Since 1775, Army chaplains have acted as spiritual counselors who support, motivate, and provide emotional guidance to soldiers and their families. We are looking for chaplains to care for spiritual, moral, and emotional well-being of the Army. Follow your calling as an Army chaplain. Visit goarmy.com/chaplain for more information or to speak with one of our virtual recruiters today.
Now, you spoke earlier about how you, while in college, you had the opportunity to go in during the summer and work with your family dentist, work at their practice. Now that you're in the Army and you were you were at Fort Sill and you're a comprehensive dentist, or you're a general dentist at the other locations. How did the Army life, or being a dentist in the Army, differ from being a civilian dentist?
Great question. Great question. So this taps into the second reason why I think anybody should join our team, and that is the practice dynamic. So I don't like to say this, but it is absolutely true. Dentistry is a business. Mm-hmm. Medicine's a business.
Right.
Okay, and that's not a bad thing, but it is a fact.
Right.
Because it is a business, we have to make a certain production in order to pay ourselves, pay our staff, keep the lights on, all that jazz. And so as a result, many providers on the outside and civilian side, are working hard in order to meet that goal, making whatever production they need to sustain themselves. And so that comes with the unfortunate reality that not only is dentistry a business, but it's an expensive one, in particular for our patients. And not everyone has the means to pay for the high-speed dentistry, evidence-based approach that we all spend so long learning how to do. Mm-hmm. And so, as I like to say it, we're taught to treat, give our patients and present to them the top-notch, evidence-based Cadillac treatment plan whenever we have the opportunity to conduct our exam and figure out what needs to be done. But as you can imagine, not everybody has the means to drive away in a Cadillac, right? So you have to end up trying to figure out to yourself, okay, you end up going down this treatment algorithm of trying to figure out, okay, what do they need versus what they can pay for. And the sad reality is, again, they don't oftentimes get to have the top-notch treatment that I think that they would want and also deserve. But that dynamic is just not the reality in the Army. Okay, because in the Army, I've been in practice now almost 12 years, and I have never once had to ask my patients for any financial kickbacks, and they've never paid me or anyone on my staff. That's just simply because they don't have to. Mm-hmm. But the also better reality is that as a result, they still don't. They get that top-notch treatment plan every single time, and the only thing that is required is a consent.
Okay.
So that creates a synergism, okay? Number one, that patient benefits because they get the treatment that they need and or deserve. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I get to practice to the highest level each and every time, providing them with the treatment that I know is best and that they also deserve. And so, again, it creates that synergism, and I don't have to ever just settle for anything less than the best. And I think that to me is the real awesome reality and the stark difference that you get to see in comparison with the outside as a civilian dentist versus who you can be as an Army dentist.
You spoke of just a few minutes ago about how you like doing distractions. And you always have some of the students come over, and you got to do extractions and help do those different things with the students as well. Now, working on a person's teeth must take some real steady hands because you're working in a very small space. When you had your very first patient, what were your nerves like when you were turned loose? Here you go. It's your opportunity. Go ahead, get to work.
Oh yeah, the nerves were going. The nerves were honestly they were really going. And credit to Marquette. Marquette Dental was very engaged with the idea of getting their students to participate in clinical care, patient care as early on as possible in our dental school career. So we actually had our first patients the summer of our first year, going into our second year, kind of. And that is unique because not all schools are like that. A lot of schools, you may not get your first patient until your late second year or even third year. But Marquette, you got at the tail end of your first, beginning of your second. And we were cleaning teeth and also participating in a denture course, which a lot of schools, when you're in your denture course, you're learning how to do that on mannequins. We were learning how to do that on real live patients. And so I say all that to say this. Even though I was slightly nervous at first, when I really got to the nitty gritty, when I first got my handpiece in my hands and I'm treating patients, I was a lot more confident at that time because I had those experiences early on in my career. I was taking x-rays, I was cleaning teeth, and I was even fabricating full dentures for patients well before I got like my very own patient to drill in their mouth, so to speak. And so again, even though it was a little challenging at first, getting used to so many things, speaking confidently and professionally to patients, and then on top of that, working in their mouths, we did get to crawl before we walk. And so when I actually came down to like the real hard stuff that we do, like you said, doing extractions, working with my handpiece in their mouth, I was made to be a lot more comfortable as a result.
Okay, that's good. The artist J. Cole, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he has a song called Crooked Smile, which is a song about embracing what God has already created with his paintbrush, it's a great, empowering song, but in some cases, dental surgery is important. What reactions have you received from patients after completing a successful operation, and how did those compliments make you feel?
Wow, great question. So I guess I can start with, wow, that's it? And those are the freebie ones, the easy ones I like to say when I can pop out a tooth in less than 5 seconds because it comes out. And, patients have all kinds of thoughts and minds and about what this experience is going to be like. And you just get in and get out and they're like, it's out. It's it. Really? And then probably to one of my most favorite surgeries to do outside of extractions, which is kind of what we call crown lengthening, and in particular aesthetic crown lengthening.
Okay.
Some people have what we call kind of gummy smile. So when they smile, you kind of see as much gums or even more gums than you do in their teeth.
Gotcha.
And this is not traditionally a normal situation. And sometimes people think that's just, as you mentioned, how God made them, and maybe they just have small teeth. Well, the reality is you don't really have small teeth. You just have a lot of gums covering up those normal-looking teeth. And so what I get to do in those circumstances is I get to, remove that excessive gum tissue and be able to expose those beautiful teeth lying beneath. And so there's an immediate reaction there because, again, I can show them right after the surgery is complete, they see the immediate result of what that is, which is, again, exposing the beautiful teeth that lie underneath. And then also, I wouldn't get into the details about the surgery and what it involves, but if I did, you'd probably be like, oh my goodness, never for me. But even with that said, every patient that I've ever completed that type of treatment to has said, as far as the pain level or anything of that nature, was slim to none, even post-operatively. And so those are the great things. Those are the great circumstances that I love, having with patients, and it just makes me, no matter how difficult it is to do, makes me charged to do it because, again, to potentially have that reaction is just a feeling that I can't describe well enough.
Let's give it up to MAJ Jones for making everybody happy and comfortable smiling. Now, deployment is something that has always been a part of the Army's cloth. You deployed to Afghanistan in support of Operation Freedom Sentinel. In what ways did you prepare for deployment, and how did you adapt to providing dental care in a deployed state?
Awesome. So how did I prepare for deployment? Well, I first off prepared for deployment when I didn't even know I was preparing for deployment by essentially going to residency, because in residency is where, again, I really defined who I am and gave me the true confidence and abilities as a clinician, which I would ultimately utilize while I was deployed. But formally, as what the Army would call training, I mean, I went to a field training exercise with the unit that I deployed with, the 673rd Dental Company Area Support. So I went to it's a Joint Base Lewis McCourt for, I believe it was about 8 days, and we did a field exercise out there. And it was just basically giving me the experience of what potential deployed dentistry would look like, field dentistry in particular. And then I also spent a few days down at Fort Bliss prior to my deployment, where, again, I got a few extra training, not necessarily anything that was particular to what I would be doing, but just kind of a generalized sort of, need to know stuff about deployment. But outside of that, I really would credit the majority of, my train up, so to speak, to my residency once again. Right. Because in Afghanistan, I was the solo dentist there at Bagram. And so, I mean, there was like about 18,000 folks there or so at the time, and I was the only dentist. Oh, man. And so that really meant that I could only really conduct sick call operations or emergency dental care. I couldn't really conduct any sort of routine dental care because I always had to make sure that I had space available to treat patients and get them back into the fight as soon as possible. So I didn't want to be doing something I didn't have to do when I needed to be doing something that I had to. So that really brought me to that emergency care only. But within that emergency care only, it got me to do what I mentioned earlier, which I love to do, which is surgery. Because there was no other dentist, as I just mentioned, but there was no other dentist to include an oral maxillofacial surgeon. So anytime any oral maxillofacial trauma came in, guess who got the call to the OR? It was me. Right. And the only other trained individual to treat those types of injuries was the ear, nose, and throat doc, the otolaryngologist. So it was between myself and him who were, doing some cool things like, plating mandibles, putting patients in oral maxillofacial fixation, taking out extracting non-restorable teeth, that kind of thing. And I got some awesome opportunity to train them. Here I am, little Brandon Jones, in the OR training otolaryngologists and even trauma surgeons on how to section and take out teeth, how to suture in the mouth, and different techniques. And I just kept thinking in that scenario, I was like, man, I feel like I'm in some real live episode of Grey's Anatomy or something. But again, it was just surreal because I never thought that guy would be me. But that guy was made because of the people who trained me and because of all that I had put into, effort-wise to become trained, that made me capable in that type of environment and confident as well.
Okay. It kind of takes me back when you speak about that, your mentors and the training that you have had, it takes me back to speaking with Colonel Walker, and she talks about when she first came in as being a nurse, the nurse who she first came to, she said, I'm going to make you super nurse. I'm gonna make you a super nurse, and that's what she made her. So I kind of, when you talk about that, it kind of makes me thinking of these people turned you into a super dentist because you're in here, you're performing these surgeries, you're the only person here in the deployed state, and you're doing these things, and then you're also offering some training. So that's definitely pretty cool. Now, when you retire from the Army, do you plan to continue to practice dental care in the civilian world?
Well, so I still have about 8 years left minimally, so I have some time, and I haven't decided yet if I will, carry that on to the civilian sector. I mean, I certainly leaving the option open, but as I kind of mentioned earlier too, I do enjoy teaching. Oh yeah, teaching. So, I've pondered the idea multiple times of maybe trying to go back to a dental school and become a faculty member and teach. And so obviously, therefore, when I'm doing that, I'm still doing dentistry simultaneously. But as far as my ability to, kind of go into that private sector scenario, I don't know yet because, again, one of the beauties about being in the military for a career is that it allows me some financial coverage, as you will, and get stability, so that I can really kind of do some things that I want to do, and I don't have to go into the grime of private practice if I want to. I can focus on things that I really enjoy, like teaching, and so as of right now, that is certainly something that's high on my radar as an option for me.
Okay, Marquette, if you guys are listening, reach out to Major Jones. He can come back and come back to your alma mater and be a teacher, be a professor there.
That's right.
In what ways do you believe that the skills and experiences that you have gained through the Army set you apart from your civilian counterparts?
Yeah, so I kind of already alluded to them. Just like I said, it's weird because I promise you, when I was in school, like I said, I never thought, I always had it in my heart to be, but just based off of my achievements in school, I didn't know that I could ever be that guy. But for whatever reason, now, after going through the training that I've gone through, speaking, with my friends and colleagues, it's weird how many phone calls and texts that I get from them asking me questions. Mm-hmm. And these are individuals that well surpassed me in the academic in dental school.
Right.
But now are the ones asking me the questions because they have the respect, and they have the confidence that I know what I know because of, again, the experience that I've had.
Right.
Credit and big ups to the graduate dental education system, and then also just to the innate concept that the Army Dental Corps has, which is to pay it forward and to ensure that our providers are providing the best care. And even if it wasn't from my experience in the residency program, I know just through the experience that I've had working in clinics and how providers work together, and how I can take the time to get up from my chair and go and assist another provider answer a question with no repercussions financially. Because of what I mentioned earlier, dentistry is a business and time is money on our job. So when I get away from my patient, I'm taking money out of my pocket, because the more time that I'm away from them, the less quick I can complete my procedure and get another patient in the chair. There's no concept of that in the Army.
Right.
It's actually beneficial for me to get up and to train that person next to me, because they can be more efficient and and see more patients as a result. And it's not, it's not going to hurt or harm my finances one bit. So I know, with supreme confidence that, again, I am who I am because of the experience that I've had, and that relies and will always be the number one reason why I think anyone should consider this opportunity.
In your bio, as I was reading through, you attended the basic and advanced officer leadership course. How has being able to take those courses, because you had some other courses as well that you also attended, but I know that I wanted to talk about those two things. I asked you about those two things, but how did being able to participate in these courses develop you as a leader?
Yeah, great question. So those, for those that don't know, as we call it, professional military education, PME, is, a necessary, achievement for successful long-term career in the military. And so I'll tell you, going into every PME that I have attended, I didn't have the most confidence of what that experience was going to be, and I didn't have the most positive light going into it, if I'm speaking honestly and freely. But having gone through every single one of them, I can tell you that every single one of them have given me an experience like no other. And the most valuable experience that I've had was just the relationships that I was able to build as a result. And those relationships that have now gone on throughout the duration of my military career thus far, and will continue on through my experience in the military and also beyond. And that is the most valuable thing. And it's, as a dental corps officer, we just innately do not have the experience and the knowledge base that many other officers outside of the dental corps may have, or even in the in some circumstances, certainly within outside the AMEDD. And so to be able to learn from those officers through their experience is integral as far as, me and my overall knowledge base that I was able to achieve from those courses. So to me, it was extremely valuable from that perspective, but I think the biggest takeaway that I got from it was the relationships that I was able to build.
Okay. Now, how does Army medicine or Army dentistry set itself apart from other healthcare systems, and how do they prioritize patient and healthcare innovation?
Well, I think I already mentioned it. I think we set ourselves apart because we're not driven by the dollar. I mean, at the end of the day, we do have monetary concerns and things of that nature. But I think we are a quality over a quantity business. And so we are truly, we hold ourselves true to that. And I, can say that with confidence simply because, as a dentist, again, in school only teaches you so much. And so not only do we charge to learn as much as we need to learn, but we got to learn how to do it with speed. Because again, I mentioned earlier as well that time is money. So we have to learn how to do things well enough, as on top of that, quick enough to get through our patients for the day. But that's a very cumbersome job and responsibility day one after dental school. But in the Army, you're able to really kind of crawl before you walk, because their expectation has never been for any of our new providers to come in and just start running through patients. And this is validated through the mentorship program that many installations and local clinics have in place, to where you are given a mentor to begin with, to kind of act as like a faculty member would while you're in dental school, to kind of give you start checks and prep checks and restoration checks and things with patients until you feel comfortable to quote unquote fly on your own. And this just again embodies the concept that I just mentioned, that we are a quality over quantity business, because that kind of thing is not going to be your circumstance at many other situations outside of the Army, and especially in things like DSO environments, where again they want you cranking in patients because that's money. Right. So again, to be able to value quality over quantity, I just don't know very many other places that will allow for you to do that.
Recently, the media has reported that the United States is struggling with this recruiting mission. What would be one thing that you would share with someone contemplating joining the Army dental team?
I think/hope I've alluded to it well enough over this hour-long conversation, but it's just, who do you want to be as a provider? That's the question I would ask. And if you value treating your patients to the highest degree, which I certainly hope that is everyone's goal, if you value being able to be in an environment that promotes you to do so, and that will allow you to do so by continuing on your education, building your credentials, thus your experience and knowledge base, I really and honestly truly don't believe there's a better place to do it, especially at the early stages of your career, less than 5 years out, where you're the most malleable and you're the most eager to really still be able to learn. That to me is really the true and honest reason why anyone should consider. Because, whether you decide to stay on as a career like myself, 20 plus years, I don't think you could ever discredit the value that I just mentioned. And, you can do your time and get out and be able to go do whatever it is your dreams are as a clinician, or you can stay on and have a career in dentistry. But whatever route you choose to do, you can do it with confidence. You're going to do it with success because of, again, the innate values and then the experience that you have as being part of our core.
Okay. Just a couple more questions before I get you out of here. I know I've had you for over an hour, so just a few more questions that I want to ask. The Army has around 5,000 bases that soldiers could be stationed at. Is there a particular base that you have enjoyed the most, and why?
Good question. The answer to that is no. And the reason being is because I've had, every post, if I'm speaking honestly, once again, that I've gone to, I don't think many of them have been on that desirable category, and locationally speaking. But I've never really sought out any location. I've never really sought out anything based off of location. I've always been kind of chasing my assignment and, again, me kind of bettering myself as a provider. But with all that said, every location that I've been to has its values. Everything from the people that I've met and the experience that I've had, regardless of the location. Good thing enough, even if the location wasn't, desirable, there's always a plane or a car somewhere to get me to where I do want to go at that particular time. But there really isn't a particular location that I would say was my favorite, because I think they all kind of had their pluses and minuses.
When the workday has ended and the uniform comes off, highlight some of your hobbies and interests that you like to do outside of the uniform.
Well, I think at the beginning of our conversation we mentioned it. I mean, health and wellness and fitness is one of my number one hobbies. So generally speaking, you'll catch me at the gym. If I didn't get it in the morning, I'll get it in the afternoon, or oftentimes both. Certainly was the case when I was training for my competition. But that is certainly top on my list, as well as just spending time with friends and family. I love my family, I love my friends, and having the opportunity to speak and engage with them as much as possible is probably number one on my list.
Now, I was told, and you also mentioned that your tenure here is about to end. So from my understanding is you are going to take over command somewhere else. Would you like to talk about what that will be in the future and what your hopes are?
Can you call me in a year and I can answer that question? Yeah, so that is correct. I am going to take command at Fort Meade in Maryland this coming July. And it is, once again, something that I never thought would be a reality for me. But the Dental Corps has, thought well enough to afford me that opportunity and responsibility, and so I will be, changing command there in the middle of July. With that said, it's a very unique responsibility in that it's almost kind of like a mini regional command, in the sense that it's not just Fort Meade proper that I will be in charge of, but Fort Belvoir, Aberdeen Proving Grounds, and Carlisle Barracks, all of which have their own subordinate commanders. So it's a very unique command, also very challenging command as a result of that. And so I'm very much looking forward to the responsibility and the experience, but I can't tell you exactly what that's going to be until I get there. So that's why I say jokingly, call me in a year. Okay.
Now, last question. If you could give a medical student any piece of advice, what would that be? Or let me not say medical student. If you could give a dental student any piece of advice, what would that be?
First of all, I'd ask the question again, like, who do you want to be, and understand what your options are to get there. Understand them fully, and recognize the reality of what life will be potentially after you graduate. And again, we all have this pipe dream of who we think we want to be while we're in school and whatnot. But oftentimes, that in comparison to what reality would be once you graduate can be two very different things. So I just would inject them with the mindset to kind of understand everything that we've talked about today. And if that is something that they are interested in, if they want to be the best of who they are as a provider in an environment that promotes that every step of the way, I really and honestly don't truly believe there's a much better place to do it, the Army Dental Corps.
Well, Major Jones, thank you for taking out time of your day to come speak with us here at the AMEDD Effect. Great information. Can't wait to be able to send this out and spread some more. And congratulations on taking command at Fort Meade here coming in July. We just wish you well and wish you the best on all your future endeavors.
Appreciate it, Will. Thank you.
Doubt. Thank you. This is the AMEDD Effect.
I'm so sorry for my.
No. You good.
I talk too much, but it's all good.
You smooth. That is.